Bonjour tout le monde. Après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, il n'a plus personne à blâmer pour les crises de criminalité et de coût de la vie qu'il a causées. Je viens de terminer une partie de mon tournée d'été. J'ai été très impressionné par le courage des Canadiens qui font face à une souffrance presque jamais vue dans nos vies. Et ça prend du courage. Parce qu'après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, les vies des Canadiens tombent en morceaux. Si vous ne me croyez pas, je vous encourage de voyager à travers le pays et d'écouter les histoires des gens. Comme le charpentier que j'ai rencontré à Sault Ste. Marie de 42 ans, qui a travaillé pendant toute sa vie, qui est maintenant sans abri. D'une dame qui travaille avec les personnes sans abri à Penticton, qui a indiqué que c'est normal maintenant à Penticton pour des personnes âgées de vivre dans les stationnements, dans leur voiture. Même CTV avait une histoire d'une infirmière qui vit dans son auto. Le coût de logement, après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau, a doublé. Le prix d'une maison a presque doublé. Le coût d'un premier versement, doublé. Le coût d'un paiement hypothécaire a doublé. Ça, 8 ans après que Justin Trudeau a promis qu'il allait rendre le logement plus abordable ici au Canada. Et maintenant, il y a des millions de Canadiens qui avaient cru Justin Trudeau quand il a dit que les taux d'intérêt allaient rester bas et qui ont pris des hypothèques variables qui maintenant ont peur de perdre leur maison. Je parlais il y a 6 mois du jeune homme de 35 ans qui vit dans le sous-sol de ses parents. Ça, c'était extrême. Maintenant, c'est encore pire. Parce que la question pour lui et sa mère, c'est comment payer l'hypothèque. Est-ce que ce jeune homme et sa mère vont devoir vivre dans leur auto? Ce sont des questions que posent les Canadiens après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau. On le voit sur nos rues. Des villes de tentes qui sont dans chaque ville du pays maintenant. On n'a pas eu ces images aussi communes depuis la Grande Dépression. Mais ça, c'est la vie après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau. C'est intéressant, hier, il a eu une photo-op pour dire à tout le monde, c'était une photo-op sur le logement, pour annoncer qu'il n'est plus responsable pour le logement. C'est drôle, parce que c'est lui qui avait promis qu'en tant que premier ministre, qu'il allait rendre le logement plus abordable. Mais maintenant, c'est plus sa responsabilité. Oublions que l'agence la plus grande en termes de logement, c'est fédéral. Le CSHL. Ça, c'est fédéral. L'assurance hypothécaire, c'est fédéral. La réglementation de nos banques qui font les prêts hypothécaires, c'est fédéral. Les impôts, fédéral. La politique fiscale et monétaire, fédéral. L'immigration, fédérale. Mais lui, en tant que premier ministre fédéral, il n'a rien à voir avec le logement soudainement. Il ne veut plus être responsable pour le dommage qu'il a causé. Et en plus, il y a la criminalité. Et Justin Trudeau croit que le pire problème au Canada, c'est que les Canadiens sont en colère avec lui. Moi, je pense qu'il y a d'autres problèmes, comme les mères qui perdent leur vie à cause d'une fusillade au centre-ville de Toronto, un enfant qui est exposé aux drogues autour de leurs écoles, une augmentation dans la criminalité comme on n'a jamais vu, c'est des données. Hier, on a entendu parler du nouveau ministre de la Justice qui a dit que c'est un problème de perception qu'on a avec la criminalité. Regardez les données. Les crimes violents ont augmenté de 39%. Les meurtres, 43%. Les meurtres des gangs de rue, 108%. Des fusillades, 101%. Des agressions, 24%. Je peux continuer. Ça, c'est le bilan de Justin Trudeau après 8 ans de libération sous caution et libération conditionnelle qu'il a permis. Et encore, le coût de nourriture. Maintenant, on a 1,5 million de Canadiens qui doivent aller à une banque alimentaire. 1 sur 5 manque des repas. Il y a des gens qui commencent à souffrir de malnutrition. Aujourd'hui, on a vu un article dans le Journal de Montréal qui dit des professionnels de la santé verraient de plus en plus une maladie qui avait presque disparu, le scorbut. Cette maladie avait pratiquement disparu, mais les professionnels de la santé affirment que c'est en raison de l'inflation alimentaire que cette maladie revient, qui était du moyen âge. Ça, c'est la vie au Canada après 8 ans de Justin Trudeau. Mais, ce qui est heureux, ce qui me donne de l'espoir, c'est que le Canada n'était pas comme ça avant Justin Trudeau et ça ne va pas être comme ça après Justin Trudeau. On va redonner aux Canadiens l'espoir. On va ramener les prix plus bas en éliminant les taxes carbone et les déficits inflationnistes pour réduire le coût de nourriture, de l'essence et d'autres essentiels. On va ramener des chèques de paie plus forts en réduisant les impôts et en donnant aux immigrants le potentiel de travailler dans leur profession comme infirmières et médecins. On va libérer nos entreprises à bâtir des grands projets de ressources pour des plus grands chèques de paie. On va inciter des municipalités d'accélérer les permis de construction et de libérer le terrain pour bâtir des logements abordables pour tous les Canadiens. On va mettre en place des politiques de gros bon sens pour mettre fin à la vague de criminalité qu'a causé Justin Trudeau. Et on va unir les gens autour de leur liberté et autour du gros bon sens. C'est comme ça qu'on va rebâtir notre pays et on va redonner aux Canadiens l'espoir dont ils ont besoin et qu'ils méritent. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And now in English. After 8 years, Justin Trudeau is running out of people to blame. I just finished a tour of Canada, and I was impressed by the incredible courage of Canadians who are suffering the misery that Trudeau has imposed on them. At 8 years, housing costs have doubled. The cost of living is rising. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder are common in our streets, and those streets are increasingly filled with homeless people stuck living in tents because of the doubling of housing costs. Now, Justin Trudeau thinks the worst problem in Canada today is that people are angry at him. I think the worst problem is that people can't pay their rent. After 8 years of his inflationary policies, of his shoveling billions of dollars into the bureaucracies that block home building, housing costs are among the worst in the world, nearly double what they are in the United States. Rent has doubled. Mortgage payments doubled. Needed down payments doubled, all after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. Yesterday, he held a press conference to announce in front of a house to tell you all that he's not responsible for housing. That's funny, because 8 years ago, he promised he was going to lower housing costs. It's also funny that the biggest housing agency in Canada, CMHC, is federal. Mortgage insurance, federal. Taxes, fiscal and monetary policy, federal. Immigration, federal. Infrastructure money, federal. All these things are federal, and yet the federal Prime Minister claims he has nothing to do with it whatsoever. No wonder he wants to wash his hands of his horrendous and unprecedented record. After 8 years, people are losing their homes. I used to say there were 35-year-olds living in their parents' basements, and people were shocked to hear that. Now, it's much worse. The 35-year-old worries that him and his mother might be on the street living in their cars. I met a 42-year-old carpenter in Sault Ste. Marie who lives in his car. I talked to a housing advocate in Penticton who says it's common now for her to meet seniors in that city that live in parking lots. CTV even ran a story of a nurse who lives in her van. Does anybody remember Canada like this? The scenes in our cities where there's tents, where people live on the streets and in parks, have not been this common since the Great Depression. Our refugees cloister in inner cities and under bridges. This is life after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. He's concerned that people are angry at him. I'm concerned for the little girl in Timmins who stepped on a dirty needle, or the mother in Toronto who was hit by a stray bullet. I'm concerned about the sports store owner in Timmins who had his shop robbed for the 4th time in 2 years. I'm not concerned whether or not Justin Trudeau's feelings are hurt because people are angry at him. I'm concerned about the misery that he has unleashed on our streets and in the pocketbooks of Canadians. You know, I looked today at the Journal de Montréal. I'm going to quote, "Health professionals are reportedly seeing more and more of a disease that had almost disappeared, scurvy. This disease had practically disappeared, but health professionals claim that it is due to food inflation, that this disease dating back to the Middle Ages is resurfacing. Quote, people are eating fewer vegetables and fruits, probably because costs have gone up, said pharmacist Régin Lemay. Typically, by eating fruit and vegetables daily, you get enough vitamin C to avoid developing this disease. People aren't getting vitamin C now after 8 years of Trudeau's inflationary deficits and taxes. And now, he wants to quadruple the carbon tax from 14 to 61 cents a litre on the farmers who make the food, the truckers who ship the food, and therefore all who buy the food. This is the misery that he has unleashed, and unfortunately, it will only get worse the longer he is there. But the good news is that Canada wasn't like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone. We'll get back to the common sense of the common people. We'll bring home lower prices by axing the carbon tax and the inflationary deficits to make food, heat, and gas more affordable. We'll bring home powerful paychecks with lower income tax that rewards hard work, with a Blue Seal test that will allow our brilliant immigrants to show they are qualified to work as doctors and nurses, reducing wait times. We'll green light green projects like critical minerals, hydroelectricity, and natural gas for export to the world, bringing home our jobs back to this country. We'll bring homes that people can afford, with a plan that I released, by the way, in April of 2022. Justin Trudeau says he still hasn't seen it. A plan that would incentivize cities to free up land and speed up permits so we can build, build, build. We have the fewest houses per capita of any country in the G7 with the most land to build on. The answer is to build. My plan, my common sense plan, requires cities boost the number of building permits by 15% per year, or lose their housing, or lose their infrastructure grants. But those that exceed that target will get building bonuses. I'll require every federally funded transit station have high-density housing approved all around it so our seniors and youth can live right next to the bus or train. We'll sell off 6,000 federal buildings and thousands of acres of federal land to build, build, build. We'll speed up immigration of building trades skilled immigrants, and we'll put more emphasis on training the future tradespeople of our country. That is a common sense plan that will build the millions of homes that we need to make it affordable as it was 8 years ago when I was the housing minister. And we'll bring home safety to our streets with jail and not bail for repeat violent offenders, and with treatment, not more drugs, for those who suffer from the illness of addiction. And we'll stop dividing and censoring Canadians, bring back freedom of expression, remove internet censorship laws, and treat Canadians based on their individual humanity, not their group identity. It's common sense of the common people united for our common home. Now let's bring it home. Thank you.
Since you mentioned immigration as part of the federal area, is that contributing to the housing issues? Should Canada re-examine immigration targets until housing gets better?
Well, I was surprised that Justin Trudeau chose the worst immigration minister in Canadian history to be his housing minister. Sean Fraser is responsible for putting refugees under bridges and in our streets. Sean Fraser oversaw the massive human tragedy of our international student program, which has people coming here defrauded by fake educational institutions and often going back to their home country in body bags. Justin Trudeau is utterly incompetent in his immigration, and he has messed it up so badly that many immigrants are now saying they were better off in their country of origin. Something I never heard in my life. There's actually an internet phenomenon now where immigrants are warning potential newcomers of how unaffordable and dangerous life is in Canada after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. My policy, my common sense policy on immigration will be driven by the number of vacancies that private sector employers want to fill, the number of charities that want to sponsor refugees, and the families that want to reunite quickly with loved ones. Let's base it on common sense, not on Justin Trudeau's ideology and incompetence, and that's how we'll restore the immigration system that has, before his arrival, been more successful than any other immigration system on earth. Thank you.
What's wrong with the 500,000 target in your mind? You call it a vanity project. What's wrong with that target?
I think what's wrong is Justin Trudeau's incompetence. So far, we've seen a totally incompetent Justin Trudeau.
What would you do with the target?
What will I do? I'll make sure we have housing and health care so that when people come here, they have a roof overhead and care when they need it. I'll make sure that it's easier for employers to fill genuine job vacancies they cannot fill. I will make sure, furthermore, sorry, it's not a debate. You have a question, I'll give you my answer. My answer is that we will also ensure that immigrants who come here as professionals get a chance to work in their profession. After 8 years of Trudeau, there are now 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses that can't work in our hospitals, while we have massive waiting lines. It boils my blood to think that my little girl sits in a waiting room for hours with her with a headache or a migraine when there are brilliant immigrant doctors that could be treating her, but for the fact that there's no direct way for them to take a test and prove their qualifications. That's why I proposed a Blue Seal national standard that would allow professionals to take an exam, prove they're qualified, and work anywhere in Canada. We did this in 1952 for the trades.
Set targets, Sarah. What target would you set?
We did this in the trades with the Red Seal in 1952, and it was the federal government that brought the provinces together to get it done. So that the target I would set is to get a Blue Seal that would allow professionals to prove their qualifications, get to work so we can improve our health care.
The previous Conservative government, which you were a part of getting out of what he said, the housing business completely. What is your response to that?
I don't even need to respond. When I was housing minister, housing cost half of what it does now. We didn't have people living in tent cities. We didn't see, I'll give you the stats. This is the result of Justin Trudeau's policy on housing. It's true, there's no question that our policy under the Conservative government costs less money, but it was also more effective in bringing about affordable housing to Canadians. The rent in this country is up 93%. Mortgage payments are up over 100%. The needed down payment for a home is up 100%. You know, these are the costs that Justin Trudeau has imposed. Now, he might brag that his policy is more expensive to taxpayers, but that doesn't make it a success. Failing is bad. Failing expensively is worse. We will do neither. When I'm Prime Minister, we will succeed at a lower cost to homebuyers and taxpayers.
Monsieur Poilievre, est-ce qu'on peut vous entendre?
The Prime Minister has...
Concernant une décision aujourd'hui qui a été prise par Meta qui dit qu'ils vont commencer aujourd'hui à bloquer les contenus de nouvelles sur les sites canadiens, qu'est-ce que vous feriez si vous étiez au gouvernement face à cette situation-là?
Je trouve ça incroyable que dans une démocratie, que le Premier ministre a adopté une loi pour faire disparaître les nouvelles de l'Internet. On penserait qu'on est en Corée du Nord. Ce n'est pas les démocraties à travers le pays où à travers le monde où on voit la disparition des nouvelles. Mais c'est ça la conséquence des projets de loi de censure qu'a adopté Justin Trudeau. Il ne veut pas que les Canadiens sachent la vérité. C'est pour ça qu'il a adopté des lois pour censurer l'Internet. Moi, je suis pour la liberté d'expression et que ce soit un gouvernement ou une entreprise technologique, c'est inacceptable d'effacer les nouvelles.
The Prime Minister has accused you of drumming up fear and anger in the Canadian public, suggesting the way you're doing politics is dangerous for Canadians. You're trying to soften your image. Are you concerned about the idea that you are being portrayed to Canadians as angry?
I think that the people who can't pay their rent would realize that whether I told them or not. Do you really think that the single mother who has seen her rent go up by 100% under Trudeau wouldn't have noticed if I didn't say it? Do you think the 1.5 million people who are forced to go to food banks because Trudeau's driven their food prices up so much wouldn't have noticed if I didn't say it out loud? Do you think the 35-year-old who would have easily been able to afford a home in his 20s when I was the minister responsible but is now stuck in his parents' basement wouldn't have noticed that he's living in a basement had I not said it? Do you think that the 500 people who came out to a crime town hall in Timmins because they no longer feel safe in their community wouldn't have noticed all the crime in their city had I not said it out loud? Justin Trudeau and some of his supporters in the media are really concerned that Canadians are angry with him. I'm concerned that Canadians can't afford to live and that they're not safe in their communities. Justin Trudeau is upset that I'm saying things are broken. Maybe he should stop breaking them.
Okay, last question.
What's your response to Meta's decision to officially remove news from its platform as of today?
I think it's like 1984. You have a prime minister passing a law to make news articles disappear from the internet. Who would ever have imagined that in Canada, the federal government would pass laws banning people from effectively seeing the news? Who would have thought that we'd have a government that would pass a law to manipulate the algorithms of the internet so that Canadians only see what the Prime Minister wants them to see? But that's where we are. I know that Justin Trudeau doesn't want Canadians to see the facts of life because after 8 years in power, people's lives are falling apart. But here's my response. Whether it's big tech or Trudeau's big government, censorship is always and everywhere wrong. And that's why I will bring home freedom of speech online, on campus, and anywhere else in this country. Because I believe that I can win an open debate in this country. And so unlike Trudeau, I will not need to censor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.